Namaste. Catastrophic thinking is something which is very common to the most psychological problems. And catastrophic thinking is again something that we would all have done at some or the other time. And so it is very important for us to understand the term, its genesis, and its resolution. And today, to discuss this, we have with us our psychoanalysis consultant, Mr. Himanshu Vaidya. Namaste, sir.
Namaste.
Sir, what exactly is catastrophic thinking and does it happen to everyone?
Catastrophic thinking essentially is a specific type of negative thinking. Every negative thinking is not catastrophic thinking, but every catastrophic thinking definitely is a negative thinking, is a form of negative thinking. So, uh, when we have negative thinking along with magnification of negative consequences, which leads to impairment in some way, then we call that particular thinking to be catastrophic thinking. For example, if you feel that you are going to purchase something today and you may not get it in the market, although when you go there, you realize it is there in the market. So when you are thinking about it, you were thinking negatively about something, but it was not catastrophic. But if you think that if I go to the market, I will not get this thing. And if I don't get this thing, I will not be able to look good in this particular setup. And people will laugh at me. They will mock at me. And I will have no face to show. And it will cause me unbearable pain. And therefore, let me not go to the market. Because if I go and I don't find it, this is going to happen. So either I don't go to the market or I cancel my appointment to the party. So that kind of thinking where apart from negative thinking, you have magnification of negative consequences. And that magnification is such that it cripples you in personal or professional life. Or it can also lead to creation of some psychopathology, any psychological problem. That specific kind of magnified, unrealistic, and impairment causing negative thinking is what we call is the catastrophic thinking. Does it happen to everyone at some point or the other in the life? Yes. Everyone indulges in catastrophic thinking at some point or the other. But usually, for a healthy individual, it is limited in terms of time and it is precipitated by some event where the stakes are high. For example, a student has given standard 10th exam and goes to collect his results. So a day before the results come, he starts thinking negatively about the results and starts catastrophizing. What will happen if he does not get good marks? Because the stakes are very high. So he does indulge in catastrophic thinking for a day or two before the result, during the day of result also. But the moment result comes and the result is okay, the catastrophic thinking ceases. Okay. However, he was indulging in catastrophic thinking for 2 days or 2.5 days. But there was a very clear precipitating factor where the stakes were very high. So this kind of catastrophic thinking, which happens when the stakes are high for a short duration and something which happens to a large section of the population, that is how it comes and goes in normal individuals. But in seriously troubled people, catastrophic thinking can happen when the stakes are not high and something ordinary is converted into a very large unsurmountable challenge. And that is where every small thing gets converted into a large challenge and catastrophic thinking starts for something which can be as basic as going out of the house. And that is where very severe issues start, whether in one's psychological life, personal life, or in the office. So catastrophic thinking happens to everybody, but in very small duration periods and when the stakes are high. But in more troubled individuals, it happens quite often and in situations where for normal people, the stakes don't look high at all. And once it starts, it goes on for much longer duration and causes impairment in psychological life, interpersonal life, personal life, or occupational life.
Okay.
Maitri, I can't hear you.
It's kind of an involuntary activity, right? You kind of helpless, but think,
Yes,
overthink.
it is
So
a
what are typical?
it is a very unconscious
Yes.
activity. The person indulging in it does not know what he is doing.
Mm-hmm. And can you state some examples of catastrophic thinking? Of course, this is something
Yeah,
that you explain. Yeah.
I think it's a very good question because most of the viewers will understand this only when we give very concrete examples, and most people will realize that they are their own experiences also. Let me give a few examples. Say example one, a person is caught by the traffic police for breaking a signal, and the person who has been caught is terrified of the traffic police. The rational process of the mind is that I have been caught breaking a signal. The penalty is 200 rupees. I will give 200 rupees. Or if I want to bribe, I will give 50 rupees to the police and I will get away. That's a very normal situation on the roads of India. But if a person has catastrophic thinking, what will happen is he will feel very high amount of anxiety. So unconsciously, he will be catastrophizing scenarios, visualizing very negative scenarios that the person will now arrest me, he will take me to the jail, I will be tortured, I will be hung upside down, and all sorts of mutilating, brutalizing scenarios will be envisioned by this person. Now that is because of the catastrophic thinking which is going on unconsciously in the mind, and therefore a person with catastrophic thinking, this template in the mind, he will have very high, disproportionately high fear of police, of authority figures, and so on. Second example, uh, a person who is given some work in the office. The moment he is given work in the office, the catastrophic thinking starts. What if I am not able to do it? And then he visualizes very horrifying consequences of something very small, which is not going to happen. But he generates such anxiety that he is crippled and either he runs away from work or he starts fighting with the person who gives work. Because it is because of the work which was given to him that this catastrophic anxiety was built up. And he holds the giver of the work responsible for this state of affairs. But in fact, at the unconscious level, the entire template of catastrophic thinking is executing itself. The entire algorithm is executing itself step by step, which we will see slightly later. What is the algorithm of catastrophic thinking? So second example can be this. Third example, somebody has a relative admitted to the hospital and the person starts catastrophizing that now he's going to die. Something will happen, and even if something is curable, the person will not be cured and he will be dead. Fourth example, uh, the person has to start a business, but the moment he starts it, and he faces the first difficulty, he starts catastrophizing that now everything is going to end, nothing is going to work out. So he will go into issues like, maybe my luck is bad, I should not go into this area. Look at this, the second step itself has met with difficulties, and so on. Similar such examples can be given, many examples in various aspects of life. And you can see how people keep painting negative catastrophic scenarios in their mind. They are restrained or crippled by it. They continuously face high anxiety, high anger, high irritation, sadness. They don't have enough of positivity and energy to do anything. They are unenterprising. Their entire potential is held back by this roadblock of catastrophic thinking. So these are some of the examples, and it is one of those problems, psychological problems, the cost of which is very heavy. And through individuals, the entire society and humanity per se is today paying a very heavy cost of this psychological problem, which is largely unconscious and unrecognized.
So, sir, is there any positive outcome of this catastrophic thinking, or what is it? It's evolutionary rational. What is the rationale behind it?
Right. So in evolutionary terms, nature provided us with this catastrophic thinking so that we are able to figure out the worst possible scenarios. So we always say, hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So this is for preparing for the worst. Unfortunately, when preparing for the worst gets distorted into obsession with the worst, you get crippled. The two are different. Preparing for the worst and getting obsessed with the worst, they are two different things. So catastrophic thinking essentially is getting obsessed with the worst in real life. In evolutionary terms, the organism or the creature who was able to think what worst can happen tomorrow in the jungle and how to prepare myself, chances of survival for that organism are increased. Versus that person or that organism who does not think about tomorrow or who thinks positively about tomorrow. So thinking negatively, preparing ourselves for the worst was a great virtue when we were in the struggle for survival. In the forest, when we were in the struggle for survival, always preparing for the worst and always being on guard. There is a very famous book by the title, Only the Paranoid Survive. And this was something which was the real situation when we were in the jungle. That the person who thinks about the worst, prepares for the worst, has a higher chance of survival versus somebody who is unprepared because either he is not thinking about the worst or is thinking positive. However, this has gone beyond its applicability, and preparing for the worst has today become being obsessed with the worst and getting crippled by it. So this is how what was evolutionarily a virtue today is a pathology.
Okay. That's the nurturing shortfall, I would say.
Right.
So when does this catastrophic thinking become a real big problem?
Uh, you mean historically or in age-wise of an individual?
Uh, every which ways, even, I mean, in our day-to-day life and
I
otherwise.
think till we had uh, a fairly robust handicraft industry which could provide us with tools to save ourselves and to build habitat which animals could not pierce. So once we could successfully build shelters which animals could not pierce, and we could craft tools which we can use to kill animals without being within the physical range of the animal. So if you have a spear and you can fight with a tiger from 10 feet or 5 feet without the tiger's hand reaching you, these two innovations actually created a new level of safety for the race. And once that safety was created, there was a need to tone down this catastrophic thinking. So the outside changed, but the inside did not change. So inside, which was correct for one particular outside, that outside underwent a change, but the inside remained. So the templates inside remained and the outside changed. So that is where you can see that the catastrophic thinking should have started reducing from that point in time. And after industrial revolution, once we started developing more medical devices, it should have further reduced, because not only from predators, but also from sicknesses, we were able to substantially save ourselves. And lastly, uh, after the creation of social security systems in the West, it should have actually come down even further, because the uncertainty in the survival of life was taken care by the social security system. What we have, unfortunately, is even in countries where we have social security systems, where uh, you are not at threat from animals, you are not at threat from pathogens, you are not at threat from nature in terms of floods or famines, you are not at threat from the vagaries of life. Social security protects you. Even in those countries, we see catastrophic thinking is very high. So the inside is not changing, although the outside is changing very fast for the better. And one of the reasons is that the genesis of catastrophic thinking is not only in the outside, but also in the psychological factors inside. So what is happening is the object loss phenomenon, the unpredictability of the parents phenomenon, the loneliness phenomenon, the lack of emotional relationships in the Western society. All of that is contributing to catastrophic thinking, and therefore, although the outside is very safe and comfortable, it is as safe and comfortable as it can be, but even in the middle of it, you still have people with catastrophic thinking. And that, I think, is a very good example of catastrophic thinking, where there is no logical rationale for it, but it is there.
True. Sir, in the process terms, can you explain in detail the process of catastrophic thinking?
Yes, this is very important, because the first important thing in healing catastrophic thinking is to know it exists and how it uh, works in process terms. So we can understand the whole process of catastrophic thinking in 7 steps. Step number 1, an ordinary event is converted into a challenge. For example, somebody has catastrophic thinking and you ask that person to pay the electricity bill, and the person develops high amount of anxiety till he is able to pay the bill, and then he feels relaxed. So something which was ordinary, hundreds of people pay the bills, everyone does not feel anxious. So an ordinary event was converted into a challenge. Number 1, step 1. Step 2, the challenge is magnified. So first, step 1, an ordinary event is converted into a challenge. So a challenge is born, a challenge is invented, created. Once challenge is created, step 2 is the challenge is magnified. So the person feels, oh my God, what a large thing, what a big thing I'm going to do when I'm going to pay the electricity bills. Unconsciously, of course, nobody will consciously think that way. Step number 3, you minimize your capabilities. Because if you are powerful enough to meet the challenge, no matter how large the challenge, how big the challenge, you should not have anything to fear. It will not result in catastrophic thinking. So step 2 is you magnify the challenge. Step 3 is you minimize your capability. Because if you have enough of power to meet the challenge, no matter how magnified the challenge is, the matter ends there. It will not go any further. But here what happens is you magnify, you invent a challenge. Step 1, you invent a challenge. Step 2, step 1, you convert an ordinary event into a challenge. Step 2, you magnify the challenge. Step 3, you minimize your capabilities. You de-idealize yourself as though you are not a capable person at all in front of the challenge. Step 4, when you look at step 3 and step 2, that you have magnified the challenge, you have minimized your capability. So inevitably there is a result, there is a fear of failure. That the challenge is big, my capabilities are very low, so I am going to fail. So step 4 is the fear of failure because of step 2 and 3. Step 5, you magnify the consequences of failure. So you tell yourself that if I fail, everyone will laugh at me, I will never get a second chance, I won't have any face to show, people will scold me, somebody will beat me, all kind of difficult scenarios you start imagining unconsciously. Okay? And step 6, you equate the horrifying magnified consequences of failure with the ultimate fears of infinite pain and death. So every human being has these fears of fear of death, the fear of infinite pain, the fear of infinite shame, and all kinds of difficult effects. So you start equating the consequences of the failure with these ultimate magnified fears, the most fundamental fears. And step 7, this results in high amount of anxiety, pain, and rage. And because of this, you are not able to work. So either you run away from that work because you are incapable of facing the anxiety, the rage, the irritation, and the pain and the powerlessness. So either you run away from that situation by not doing that work, or you repress all these negative effects and do the work with great difficulty. And that is what exhausts you. That the work is not exhausting, but controlling these negative feelings while the work is going on is exhausting. And you start feeling angry towards the person who gave you the work in the first place. He was the cause of all trouble. So this is how the 7th step is, that you develop anxiety, anger, pain, helplessness, powerlessness, a psychological state which is unbearable, and you want to either run away or do the work with great repression, which will exhaust you very soon, or you feel angry towards the person who is given this work to you, or the anxiety just may cripple you that you're just not able to work and you just give up and you say that this is beyond me, I can't do it. So it is a self-fulfilling prophecy that you believe in step 2 and step 3 you won't be able to do it, and in step 7 either you are just able to do it with great difficulty and low efficiency or not able to do it at all. So this is how the 7-step process of catastrophic thinking is, and you can see it operating in practically every area of life, right, in some person or the other.
Correct. Yes. Sir, so what are the different explanations about why catastrophic thinking occurs?
One explanation is that it has to do with early life object loss. That because of the early life object loss, the person attacked the bad breast, and in turn the bad breast was attacking it. And the attack of the bad breast was catastrophic. So the person developed a template that a catastrophic event can happen anytime. Okay. So the first catastrophic event was the attack of the bad breast. The second can be, it can be object loss, and that was seen as catastrophic. So that template is created that object loss can happen anytime and catastrophic can happen anytime. Third is the Oedipus was not resolved. So the castration can happen anytime and the catastrophe can happen anytime. So the catastrophe there actually is the Oedipal castration. Because Oedipal is not resolved, castration attack can happen anytime. It can be because of disintegration of the self. That because of early life difficulties of upbringing and constitution, a strong self was not created. A weak self was created, which under slightest of pressure starts disintegrating. And it is this disintegration of the self which is interpreted as something catastrophic. And because this can happen very easily, one starts developing a template, a catastrophe can happen anytime. And one starts getting prepared for a catastrophe in every situation. And that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy that what you fear, the process of fearing makes it come true. Lastly, you have unpredictable parents. If the parents are not stable and they can scold you or beat you for reasons which are unpredictable, where you don't know that today you do X and you are admired, tomorrow you do X and you are attacked. So you can't make out what will be attacked and what will be admired. So you develop a template that a catastrophe can come anytime. So unpredictable attacking parents can also lead to catastrophic thinking. Real life socio-economic situations where if somebody has lost money or suddenly you have to shift from a large house to a small house, or you have to change a school from a good school to a government owned low end school, and this happens many times over, it can also lead to catastrophic thinking. If one faces too many object losses, for example, if you have a very transferable job, so the child is in a school for 4 years, and just when he has started developing attachments, you shift the school. And just when he has started developing attachments, again you shift the school. So the repeated object losses now become catastrophic. And he starts believing that every 4 years a catastrophe is going to come. Similarly, accidents or really losing people in succession, that you have an accident, you lose an uncle who was dear to you. After 2 years, you lose somebody else. This can also lead to catastrophic thinking. And similarly, you have the uh, the real life events, which may be natural disasters, which happen again and again, or it may be a traumatic abuse event. If somebody has been abused, that person can also develop catastrophic thinking. So these are all the different kinds of reasons why one develops catastrophic thinking, and often it is also passed on from parents to the children. That in some cases it is learned that the child sees the parent respond to challenge in a very disintegrated, fearful, anxious way, because the parent is catastrophizing the challenge. And when the child sees the parent meeting the challenge in a catastrophic way, he also develops the same template. There is a very good book on this. It is called Broken Father, Broken Sons. And this talks about that learned difficulties from the parents. So these are all the reasons how catastrophic thinking as a template in the unconscious mind develops and stays in people.
So, sir, how do you heal the problem of catastrophic thinking? What
Uh,
are the ways?
we don't have any pill for catastrophic thinking. We also don't have any vaccine for catastrophic thinking. And this brings me to my favorite new idea of psychological vaccines. That someday we should have a psychological vaccine for anger, envy, and catastrophic thinking. But till then, we don't have pills for it. We have pills for the outcomes of catastrophic thinking. Because based upon how strong catastrophic thinking is, you may get into a generalized anxiety disorder, or you may get into a paranoid personality or something else. So catastrophic thinking, we cannot avoid or cure by a pill. We can deal with its effects with pills. The cure is, so far as possible, is only through therapy. And by that we mean the classical psychotherapy or holistic healing therapy. Uh, in classical psychoanalytic psychotherapy and cognitive behavioral therapy, in CBT, they deal with it in a shorter way, in a more cognitive way. In psychoanalytic psychotherapy, we are looking at uh, the classical uh, Kohutian, Freudian, or Kleinian models. These are the three very important models to heal through psychoanalytic psychotherapy the catastrophic thinking. And uh, if the person is not fragile, then we can dispense with the Kohutian part and just be in the Freudian Kleinian orientation. But if the person is fragile, then we'll have to start Kohutian and then slowly get into the Freudian Kleinian mode. Usually, we would be looking at something like one session per week for a period of 6 months, and in more extreme cases, 2 sessions per week for a period of 6 months. This is not a very deeply rooted stuff to cure in terms of if you compare it with something like a personality disorder or a psychosis. So it's relatively speaking easy to cure very circumscribed, limited problem. Right? And this problem may easily be one of the many problems in a larger disorder. So if you are healing the larger disorder, and for that healing, you may have to heal 7 elemental problems, and this may be one of them. But if this is taken as a standalone problem, we are looking at once a week 6 months or maximum twice a week 6 months. Start Kohutian, then go Freudian Kleinian if fragile person is there. If not fragile, just go Freudian Kleinian, it should be fine. Important thing is, if you can explain this 7-step process to the person and ask him to apply it in real life and see how it works out, that will not only ease out the whole process for the person, but also quicken the whole therapy process. My personal experience is cognitively explaining to the person what is happening to him, making him apply it in real life, and if he discovers it is relevant, it is not in the air, it is actually explaining what is happening to him, and then you go into the psychoanalytic connection with it, it's a very quick way to heal it.
So then, coming to holistic healing, so how does that help in healing catastrophic thinking?
Uh, it's very important for healing catastrophic thinking, and it's very interesting to note some points in this regard.
Okay.
First is, catastrophic thinking essentially is about negative thinking. That somehow the negative thinking is not balanced or sort of overpowered by positive thinking.
Extreme negative thinking.
Yeah. So it is negative thinking which is not balanced by positive.
Yeah.
If there was a balance or overcoming of the negative by the positive, it would not be a problem. And therefore, people ask me, what is the opposite of catastrophic thinking? And I say there is no word for it, but I have coined a word for it. I call it catastrophic thinking. Right? Can we have a positive version of catastrophic thinking? So just as people think that I will lose everything, I will be tortured and killed, can we have the opposite of it in fantasy? That I will get everything in this world, I will always be happy. So can you have catastrophic thinking to counterbalance the catastrophic thinking? It is a very good innovative tool, right? A good use of fantasy in a way. But coming to the point, we are looking at negative thinking which is not counterbalanced by positive thinking. In more everyday terms, we would say if a person believes in God, a good God, that counterbalances the negative aspects. That the good God will help me, will save me, and these negative things will not come true. So if really one believes in God, right, it is easy to deal with catastrophic thinking. Right? Because a person suffering from catastrophic thinking, regardless of what he says officially and consciously, in the unconscious mind, the situation is he believes in the power of the negative, he does not believe in the power of the positive. So he is believing in a world of Satan without God, to put it in more theological terms. So if the God is reinstituted in the unconscious to more than counterbalance the Satan, if a good, reliable, positive object is internalized to overcome the negative object, if positivity is strengthened enough to overcome the negativity, we would not have the tragedy of catastrophic thinking. So when we look at holistic thinking, holistic healing, belief in God, I am talking about genuine belief in God, not official professing it. So if genuinely somebody believes in God, he would have internalized a good, reliable, stable object in the unconscious. So, so that would be a very good cure, a quick cure for catastrophic thinking. One can even go into the opposite of it, the catastrophic thinking. Second, if we don't go into theology and if we remain secular, then within the secular frame, we would look at internalization of good, reliable, stable object. Because essentially, it is the absence or the weakness or the powerlessness of the good object in us which allows these difficult possibilities to take hold of our minds. So internalization of a good, reliable, stable object through certain practices like worship or idol therapy or concentration or meditative practices or being with a guru, all of them also help in internalizing a good, reliable, stable object, just as therapy does. Third, catastrophic thinking always is accompanied by high dosage of anxiety. The first thing that it creates is anxiety. Second, it creates rage. Third, it creates pain. And the root of it all is in inferiority. That if you are capable enough to meet the challenge, rest of the story stops there. So the root is inferiority. The process is magnification of challenge. And the consequence is anxiety, anger, and pain. So to elevate those things, any relaxation technique which involves music, yoga, breathing patterns, exercises, aerobics, music, anxiety removing and negativity removing issues are techniques like pranic healing and Reiki. all of them are very useful to do the following things. One, remove anxiety or reduce anxiety. Two, bring in some sort of calm and peace inside. Allow the person to experience it, take a snap of it in memory so that it becomes a goal state. And homeopathy also has certain drugs which work on certain people. They report very good findings. So on the whole, when we look at holistic thinking, I think for catastrophic thinking, holistic healing has a good basket of tools to offer.
Well, as a family, we have this. When any one of us, we start thinking negative, all I tell them is close your eyes and say cancel, clear, delete, and everything is deleted,
True.
which brings you back to the normal state, I guess.
Yes.
But yeah. So, sir, do you need to go to a therapist, or do you need to take a pill to heal your catastrophic thinking, or no, it's
Uh,
not so necessary?
uh, we don't have actually a pill for catastrophic thinking. We have pills for the collateral damage that catastrophic thinking causes in terms of anxiety, anger, uh, pain, inferiority, at times guilt, at times shame. Right? So we may not have a pill for shame, we may not have a pill for guilt, but definitely we have a pill for anxiety and anger. So there are some collateral damages of catastrophic thinking, uh, which we deal with by pills, but the core healing process, that may be an emergency measure. Pills may be an emergency measure, but the core healing process remains of psychotherapy. And preferably, psychotherapy, we can look at CBT or psychoanalytic psychotherapy. Lighter versions, we can look at CBT. More heavier versions of the problem, we look at psychoanalytic psychotherapy, and preferably coupled with holistic healing.
So, sir, many of our viewers, after seeing so many videos, they invariably write to us saying that, अच्छा आपका ये वीडियो देख के हमने काफी कुछ सीखा, but then can we, start healing just seeing by this videos? And I don't know what basic knowledge they have or not. But then this is the question. So then let me ask you this question. It's
Right.
not coming from me, but it is coming from the viewers. So seeing this video, can they start healing a person who has catastrophic thinking?
If the person has only catastrophic thinking, yes. But if the catastrophic thinking is a part of a larger disorder,
Mm-hmm.
suppose some person has a paranoid personality disorder,
Right.
and in that disorder, when you analyze it, at the root you
Hmm.
find 5-7 things, and out of those
Okay.
5-7 things, catastrophic thinking happens to be one of them. Now that
Okay.
is a more complicated situation. So if a
Mm-hmm.
person has only catastrophic thinking, you can look at this video, understand it, apply it to yourself, master the video, what it
Hmm.
says, and then apply it to others.
Hmm.
But if
Okay.
a person has a diagnosable disorder of which catastrophic thinking happens to be a part, either in terms of manifestation or in terms of causation, then in such a situation, you require a trained professional, a real professional, a psychiatrist or a psychotherapist. It does not remain a layman's job anymore. Secondly, you will find a large number of people where they don't have any disorder, which is diagnosable, but they have catastrophic thinking. So my feeling is that uh, by looking at this video, understanding it, applying it on oneself, mastering it experientially, and then applying to others who have only catastrophic thinking, that itself opens up a large area of application. In India itself, you would have crores of people, and outside India also you will have millions of people in every country who would have catastrophic thinking issues of different intensities, but no diagnosable disorder. For this large population, anybody who understands this, applies it on himself, masters it experientially, and helps out people, it can be done. But where something diagnosable comes out, it becomes a medical condition, and then you require a trained professional.
Absolutely true. And even following the 7-step process that we discussed would help. You
Yes.
can do it on self or you can help others. And I think that would help. So we have discussed today the most important topic of catastrophic thinking. And in our coming episodes, we will take up equally interesting topics in psychoanalysis. Meanwhile, you do write to us and stay home, stay safe. And maybe you can write to us at hvindia@gmail.com. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.